Oh god, I have to remember what his voice was like.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed.
The prosecution is ready.
The defense is ready, my lord.
Readiness for the trial, my learned Nipponese friend, is not what the defense needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat.
Well, I've looked into the future, and I'm pretty sure you're wrong, bitch. It's not just in my imagination, it's really there. Lord Van Zeeks has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason. He's fucking racist, dude. It was some time ago now that he first became known as the Reaper of the Bailey, I believe. These past few years, he hasn't appeared in court at all. Yet now he's back in the courtroom, though for some reason, only when I'm defending. This Reaper, with his curious disdain for us Japanese, is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Soseki-san's trial.
Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury who have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial.
Okay, how many people do we know?
Maybe all of them. I noticed at least 3 I remember from the first game. I'm not going to be able to remember everybody's voice, though, so I'll just do it, just make it up as I go.
Absolutely. I had a feeling this larrikin wasn't innocent before.
I must say that I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat refuses to sit right. Oh, well, I rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think the ruthless look is rather fetching, actually.
Oh, she's new. Oh, I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Let's make this quick.
I couldn't agree more. I need to take home 5 bob tonight, or the missus will go through the roof.
Oh, may the Lord show us all the light.
Oh no, you are definitely not Scottish. I can't do high-pitched and British. Hold on.
May the Lord show us all the light here and lead his flock to a righteous verdict.
The British jury system is so very different to our own, isn't it? It makes you choose a lot of different voices to do all at the same time, doesn't it? And that the judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt. It's rather silly now that I think about it. 6 citizens of London chosen at random. At least that's the idea. It's really silly that we put the burden of deciding guilt upon these total randos that have never studied law in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than people that are actually, trained for this. It's really silly.
The prosecution would draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today.
That does not seem right, but oh well. Let us commence the trial. Lord Van Zeeks, your opening statement, please.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision. However, the innocent verdict afforded to this eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetrate a most blood-curdling crime, namely, of the attempted murder of his neighboring lodger, an innocent Englishman. You can't keep getting away with this. To explain the circumstances of the crime, the prosecution calls its first witnesses to the stand. I take off my clothes. The detective responsible for investigating the scene, and the accused himself.
I half expected it to be Sholmes.
Witnesses, your names and occupations, please.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. Soseki Natsume from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student to study your language and culture. Mr. Natsume? Yes, my lord, sir. I'm quite sure I'm not mistaken. That you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. I remember it as if it were yesterday. It was yesterday!
The day before, in fact, my lord, but close enough.
Believe me, this is the last place I wanted to be.
Inspector, let's hear from you first. Explain the case for the court.
Right you are, sir. The incident occurred at the Gardev household where the defendant has lodgings. In the ground floor room of the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare. The defendant has already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shamspeare collapsed in his room as a result of poisoning by strychnine? Strychnine? He was found in the following morning when the landlord, suspected something was wrong, broke down the door. This means, as I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident.
Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to or exit from the room impossible.
Although the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, lived to tell tale, he very nearly did it. The man was halfway to heaven when we first found him. I was the first officer on the scene, my lord, and I have a photographic print here that I took the time to show how it looked. Now, if you cross your eyes, you can look in stereoscopic vision in 3D.
Yep, it's a gas leak because you can see the gas right there.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased. That's right, everyone present believed that's exactly what he was. Very well, I shall accept this photographic print as evidence for the court. Now then, Mr. Natsume. Yes! Yes! As the defendant, do you have anything to say at this juncture? No. They're haunted by evil spirits. Good gracious, what's haunted? My lodgings! There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings. The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances. A woman was stabbed by no one on the street outside. My neighbor was poisoned. And me! What about me? I've nearly been killed countless times. But I never go to court about it. Killed, Mr. Natsume? How? Even on that fateful night it happened, when I returned from Mr. Shamspeare's room, I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out, and somebody tried to kill me! You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsume. But it's so cold, my runny nose would freeze. Point is, I didn't poison my neighbor. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed? Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of events.
You do? After his... Whatever.
If I could raise one more point, my lord, one more conclusive point.
We have investigated the lodgings and there's no evidence of ghosts.
Conclusive? Go on.
Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, has regained consciousness after his ordeal, and he is named the true culprit. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea that he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused.
The accused? Oh my goodness! Oh my good grief. Order! Order!
Yes, that's the crux of this whole case. If Sasaki-san is innocent, then why? Why has the victim accused him?
Well, Mr. Natsume, what have you to say to this accusation? That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shakespeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I brought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never.
The public pump was frozen, you say? That's not information we've heard before.
That will do, thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defense must have the opportunity to cross-examine the witnesses at least once. However, I'm going to decide that I don't care about the law anymore. You're guilty. Go straight to jail. Therefore, I call upon these witnesses now for a formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objection?
Objection. I'm a bitch.
Good. Then you will give your account of events on the night in question for the court now. Yes, my lord!
I fucking love watching the audacity peak when I fucking do anything as Natsume, because he just has that... He has a fun voice, even though it doesn't make any sense, because he's... I'm not going to be able to do a Japanese accent that doesn't sound horribly racist, so I just made him sound the most American. Like, the running gag is all the British people talk British, and all the Japanese people talk American English. And...
The original British.
Yeah, so I mean, like, that was unintentional, but as I noticed it, I definitely kept contributing it. Mm-hmm. However, it's not necessarily always the case. The big fucking exception is Susato. Susato is definitely British, and that's just because the verbiage of this game, it was localized in Britain and uses British isms, so people just talk like they're British.
It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor, and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated literary debate over a nice hot drink.
Yeah, same.
After which I went back to my room at around 11. My tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he?
The other thing about Natsume is his voice is really hard in my throat, so I'm gonna grab some water, sugar water. I'm gonna grab a drink, yeah. Gregson, don't be a bitch. We already know that you committed high treason against the British Empire. Mm-hmm. I mean, not yet, but you will.
Strychnine doesn't take some time to have an effect on the body. People don't kill over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. Yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward.
Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his plea to have been harmless. Presumably, though, the teacups have been examined for traces of the poison, haven't they?
Why did I think of that? Because we didn't have time. We just got the teacups and then were immediately thrust into the courtroom. Anything of note here? Definitely that. Yeah, we didn't get a chance to look at these, so I'm gonna do that. Whoever opened this envelope didn't bother with a letter opener or scissors, did they?
Kind of looks like my letters when I opened them. Yes, whoever opened it was clearly someone with an unrefined temperament. And judging from the angle of the rip here, the person in question must have been right-handed.
What? How could you possibly guess that?
I think perhaps someone's been reading too much of the Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. You can never read too much of it, Mr. Naruto. Never!
Well, by the angle of that...
Yeah, it's not exactly true, though.
Yeah.
They're cracked. This is the teacup from which Mr. Natsume was drinking. Yes, unlike the other one, the inside of the cup is completely clean. I suppose he must have drunk the contents before the tea had a chance to leave a mark. I always gulp it down, too. Sorry, Mr. Naruto? Well, if you just sip it little by little, it goes cold. Clearly, I shall have to instruct you in the proper way to take tea. There's no tea ring. This must be the cup that Mr. Shamspeare was drinking from, then. It's stained on the inside. Tea does that, I'm afraid, even green tea. Oh, really? I've never noticed before. You've never noticed? Well, I never leave it in the cup long enough to leave a mark. I like to gulp it down. Drink tea while it's hot. That's the Japanese way, isn't it? No. No. There's no sign of sigil of authenticity at the bottom of these teacups. Now they'll never evolve into a proper poltergeist. That's a Pokemon joke. Oh. Someone was carving a hole in this bar of soap. I shudder to think of what they were trying to do with it. This bar of soap, when we first found it, I could have sworn there was some sort of... Wait a second. We've lost it! We lost the olive?! You're right, I remember it too! But now the depression is completely empty! Me. Where could the olive have gone? Oh no! Where did we lose it? We're terrible at our jobs! I'm right in thinking these scales are a symbol of the defense-in-law, aren't they? They're supposed to symbolize treating everything equally and fairly. That's why they're always in the middle, balanced. Balanced. Equal measures on both sides. Recently, though, whenever I see a set of scales, I can only think of the enormous scales of justice. That's entirely understandable. They are such a powerful symbol in the courtroom, aren't they? And the thing about the scales of justice is, they're always leaning one way or the other. They're only ever in balance right at the start. It must be something peculiar to the British. That's not even true. There was at least one point in the last game, in like the fourth case, I swear, that they were balanced at one point.
Mm-hmm. Because we were at a stand trial.
Yeah. I'm afraid I can't shed any light on it, Mr. Naruto. Wait. Oh, I was wondering if... Oh, it's my boyfriend's name. Very fine embroidery here that shows the name of the armband's owner. In this case, Kazuma Asogi. I'm always carrying my best friend's hopes and dreams. Bim, bim, bim! With me on my right arm just here, all the time. To be honest, it's something that weighs very heavily on me. Oh, I didn't realize it was such a burden, Mr. Naruto. Yes, I think that's why my right shoulder aches so much. You should probably stop sleeping on it. Are you sure that's not to do with you reading in bed or the like? Oh my god, don't call me out on this! Even though I haven't read a book in years. Why didn't I think of that? Because I'm stupid. Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to. Did I hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect substance. How could you have overlooked something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done? Isn't that the first thing you should have done, my learned Nipponese friend?
Do you think I have the technology?
Do you think that we've discovered DNA technology? The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea, not that it was overlooked.
Unable? Why?
It's simple enough, there was none left, not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed. With current scientific techniques, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstances. We only need a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist, funnily enough.
But the one with that drank it all was Mr. Natsuma's tea.
Yeah. The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than the tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question.
Then why did he have a fork in his hand? And why was there a bar of soap in front of him?
Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend.
Oh, okay.
You can see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accused's guilt.
I wonder what I'm gonna have for supper tonight.
Your client's fate is all but sealed. In mere moments from now, you will lose and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity.
Why are you so, mean to me, dude?
I'm pretty sure
Why are you
you
so assholey?
It's because I'm racist. Slap.
I can't let them beat me down. I won't.
Counsel for the defense, now it's time for your hourly beating by the jury.
Yes, my lord. Cross-examination. Okay. So I think this one is gonna be something about the tea then.
That he drank it all?
Yeah, but we don't have anything that directly points to that, so I'm gonna press Gregson.
According to the coroner I was speaking to at the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison's consumed. Then the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation.
So there's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms. Just like... What the fuck is this thing on my shoulder? I just remembered it was there.
The little mouse!
There seems to be quite a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure. Oh dear, death by poisoning again. It's always so awful.
30 minutes is a long time.
Is it?
Certainly long enough for the victim could lock the door behind the accused after he left.
You can't deny that, and it further degrades Soseki-san's alibi.
I have the medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. It spells out really. The accused is the only person who could have done it.
Very well, the court will add this report to the court record as evidence.
The victim's medical report has been added to the... Oh, yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms. Great. Okay, so that seems reasonably important. I'm going to take a look at that. Let's see. Sham Spear 31, ingestion of a small quantity of strychnine, toxic effects present 30 minutes after ingestion, high likelihood of the substance having been mixed with the tea the victim was drinking, but no sample could be obtained for testing. Poisoning resistant around 1:30 a.m. Assessed from the victim's pocket watch. Why does it always fucking break when they collapse? Okay, no container with poison was found at the scene. What time did you leave?
Hold it!
Yes, there was not a drop of tea left in the victim's room anywhere, was there?
That's correct. Everyone would think the fellow had never had a pot of tea before. He must have licked it dry. Which is a pity, because one drop is all we would have needed to analyze it for poison.
Did you say that you returned home to your room at 11 o'clock, Mr. Natsume?
Yes, definitely. By heaven and earth, I swear it. Well,
And Lord was able to verify that as it happens. He confirmed that the defendant went back to his room at 11 that night. And how was the landlord able to attest to this? He, said it was the lamps, I believe. The lamps, Inspector?
When tenants return to the rooms and start using gas, the lamps in other parts of the house flicker. Yes, Mr. Garrideb seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his tenants.
There's only one key to Mr. Shakespeare's room, I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself from inside his room. The victim has confirmed that to be the case, yes. So I'm right. My tea was harmless. Completely harmless. If you take poison, you die. Everyone knows that. No, it's not that simple, I'm afraid. What do you mean?
Okay, so that was it. Maybe let's do this then. Oh, wait, we already did this one.
Yeah, you already did this one. You wanted to look at the medical. You already looked at it.
So we need evidence that Soseki-san left at 11. Oh, there it is. It's right there. Okay. So then,
Objection.
easiest fucking objection I've had.